Force is a multinational military force authorized by the United Nations to help maintain peace and security in areas of conflict or post-conflict situations. The role of a UN peacekeeping force is to monitor and observe peace agreements, facilitate negotiations, provide security, and protect civilians in the conflict zone. UN peacekeeping forces are typically composed of soldiers and civilian personnel from multiple countries, and they operate under the authority of the UN Security Council. The specific mandates of UN peacekeeping missions vary depending on the situation, but they often involve working closely with local authorities and communities to promote stability and resolve conflicts peacefully. Since the first UN peacekeeping mission was established in 1948, more than 70 peacekeeping operations have been conducted in various parts of the world. UN peacekeeping missions have played a critical role in preventing conflicts from escalating, protecting civilians, and promoting peace and stability in some of the world's most volatile regions. Role of the UN Peacekeeping Force. The roles of the UN Peacekeeping Force can vary depending on the specific mandate given by the UN Security Council for each mission. However, some of the common roles and responsibilities of a UN Peacekeeping Force are: 1. Maintaining peace and security. The primary objective of a UN Peacekeeping Force is to maintain peace and security in a conflict or post-conflict area. This can involve monitoring and observing ceasefires, ensuring that weapons are not used, and helping to prevent the reoccurrence of violence. 2. Supporting political processes. A UN peacekeeping force may also be involved in supporting political processes, including helping to facilitate negotiations and mediation efforts between conflicting parties. 3. Protecting civilians. A key responsibility of a UN peacekeeping force is to protect civilians from violence and other forms of harm. This can include providing security for displaced persons, refugees, and other vulnerable groups. 4. Disarming combatants. A UN peacekeeping force may also be involved in disarming combatants and helping to ensure that weapons are not used. 5. Promoting human rights. UN peacekeeping forces may also play a role in promoting and protecting human rights in the areas where they operate. This can involve monitoring human rights abuses and supporting efforts to promote justice and accountability. 6. Providing humanitarian assistance. In some cases, a UN peacekeeping force may also be involved in providing humanitarian assistance, such as distributing food, water, and medical supplies to those in need. Overall, the roles of a UN peacekeeping force are focused on maintaining peace, promoting stability, and protecting the rights and well-being of civilians in conflict or post-conflict situations. Pros of UN peacekeeping force. 1. Preventing escalation of conflict. The presence of a UN peacekeeping force can help prevent conflicts from escalating, reducing the risk of violence and protecting civilians. 2. Promoting stability and security. UN peacekeeping forces can help promote stability and security in areas of conflict, creating the conditions for economic growth and development. 3. Facilitating negotiations and mediation. UN peacekeeping forces can help facilitate negotiations and mediation efforts between conflicting parties, potentially leading to a peaceful resolution of the conflict. 4. Providing humanitarian assistance. UN peacekeeping forces may be involved in providing humanitarian assistance, such as food, water, and medical supplies to those in need, helping to save lives and alleviate suffering. 5. Building trust and cooperation. The presence of a UN peacekeeping force can help build trust and cooperation between conflicting parties, paving the way for long-term reconciliation and peace. Cons of UN peacekeeping force. 1. Limited effectiveness. UN peacekeeping forces may not always be effective in achieving their objectives, and their presence may not always deter violence. 2. Costly and resource-intensive. UN peacekeeping missions can be very costly and resource-intensive, requiring significant financial and human resources. 3. Political interference. UN peacekeeping forces may be subject to political interference from member states, potentially undermining their effectiveness. 4. Risk to personnel. UN peacekeeping forces operate in dangerous and unstable environments, putting their personnel at risk. 5. Legitimacy concerns. There may be concerns about the legitimacy of a UN peacekeeping force, particularly if it is seen as biased or lacking in impartiality. Overall, while UN peacekeeping forces can play an important role in promoting peace and security, there are also potential downsides to their deployment that need to be carefully considered. Example of where UN peacekeeping had worked. There are several examples of successful UN peacekeeping missions around the world, but one of the most often cited success stories is the UN peacekeeping mission in Namibia, UNTAC, in the late 1980s. Namibia, formerly known as Southwest Africa, was a former German colony that had been under South African administration since World War I. The South African government had refused to relinquish control of the territory, despite international pressure to do so, and this had led to a protracted conflict between the South African military and various Namibian liberation movements. In 1988, the South African government and the United Nations agreed to a plan that would lead to Namibian independence and the withdrawal of South African forces. The UN was tasked with overseeing the transition process, which involved organizing elections, monitoring human rights, and overseeing the withdrawal of South African forces. UNTAC was deployed to Namibia in April 1989, and its 7,500 military and civilian personnel helped to monitor the ceasefire and the withdrawal of South African forces. They also helped to organize the first democratic elections in Namibia, which were held in November 1989, and oversaw the transition to independence on the 21st of March 1990. The successful completion of the UNTAC mission is often cited as a model for UN peacekeeping, and it is seen as a significant achievement in the history of the UN's efforts to promote peace and security around the world. So Biafrans, there is no cause for alarm following the sudden emergence of the UN peacekeeping force in Igboland or the South and Southeast states. Just be calm and continue to exercise your human rights within the every law necessary. Please, subscribe to our YouTube, Facebook and Twitter accounts for more value reorientation videos and like and share our posts. Thank you for watching and learning.